Hi, I am Sheila Sapp, host of Walk of Faith. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. And if you are returning, welcome back. And today is July 1st. Can you believe that we have already gone through June and July 4th is coming up this week? The purpose of this podcast is to help us grow together by strengthening and extending and expanding our faith. And I've always been a believer of people working together and encouraging each other to grow. And several weeks ago, I mentioned that a part of my early morning routine is to read from the upper room, which is a daily devotional. And usually at the beginning of every month, they will highlight an artist's work. And for the month of July, they have included a picture by an artist by the name of Arthur A. Dixon. He's from England, and he lived from 1872 to 1959. And the image that he drew, which is on the cover of the Bible, is taken from a book, and it's a book of stories for children. The title of that book is The Precious Gift, Bible Stories for Children. And I just want to share with you that the image is that of Bartimaeus, the blind man. And if you could just see this image, you have Bartimaeus sitting, and he has a stick in his hand, and Jesus is standing close to him with his hand reaching out like he's about to touch his eyes. And if you could just see Bartimaeus' posture and the expression on his face, his eyes are closed, and his face is inclined toward Jesus. And he just comes across with this image of total submission, total letting go. And when I looked at the picture, I thought, now that's what we should look like when we totally submit to God. And what I want to do is to read to you the verses that come from Mark chapter 10, verses 46 through 52, that talks about how Jesus heals blind Bartimaeus, starting with verse 46. Now they came to Jericho. As he went out of Jericho with his disciples and a great multitude, blind Bartimaeus, the son of Timaeus, sat by the road begging. Now it doesn't say how long he was beside the road, and who knows? We don't know how old blind Bartimaeus is, but we do know that he was sitting by the road begging. Verse 47, and when he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to cry out and say, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. Verse 48, then many warned him to be quiet, but he cried out all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Can you picture that? So now we know that blind Bartimaeus was not alone. There were other people around him. And he was calling out when he heard what all the commotion was about, when he heard that Jesus of Nazareth was in town. And so you can see already people were flocking around Jesus for healing. And it just made me think about the faith that blind Bartimaeus demonstrated. Even though he was told to be quiet, he cried out all the more. Can you just imagine him boldly yelling out to Jesus? Verse 49. So Jesus stood still and commanded him to be called. So Jesus stopped and asked them to bring him forth. He called him. Blind Bartimaeus, although he could not see, got Jesus' attention. What about us? We see. How do we get his attention? Then they called the blind man, saying to him, Be of good cheer, rise, he is calling you. Now imagine that. First, they were telling him to be quiet. And now that he had gotten Jesus' attention, they said, Be of good cheer. They were telling him to get up, go, rise. He's calling you. So the tide had turned from telling him to be quiet to encouraging him to get up, go forth, and go to him. Verse 50, and throwing aside his garment, he rose and came to Jesus. And I can just picture him throwing that garment aside that he had on and standing to his feet and using the aid of his stick to go toward Jesus. Verse 51, so Jesus answered and said to him, What do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, Rabboni, that I may have my sight, that I may receive my sight. Verse 52, then Jesus said to him, Go your way, your faith has made you well. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus on the road. What do you think about that? Because of his faith, he was made well. He was healed. Now, just think, we don't know how long he was blind. So he didn't waste time standing around or running to his friends or saying, I can see, I can see, I can see. What did he do? When he received his sight, he followed Jesus on the road. And I can just imagine him praising him and worshiping him all the way. And that's what we need to do. We need to speak out and be bold and call out using words of faith to Jesus, our Savior. Tell him what we need. Tell him what we want. And although you may have people around you who advise you, buckle up. Don't tell everybody your business. Don't ask people to pray for you. Don't talk about it. Don't share. But as you see, Bartimaeus continued to shout for Jesus. He did not listen to the crowd. And believe me, the crowd can turn you in the wrong direction. So you always need to seek the Lord and don't be afraid to call out to him. Don't be afraid to pray. Don't be afraid to seek counsel from someone who may be spiritually grounded. And whatever you do, don't give up. I mean, I could just picture this. I can see it so plainly. How he healed, how he was healed and regained his sight because of his faith. And that's what we need to do. The very same thing. We need to find those scriptures that we can recite. We need to pray. We need to come up with statements of affirmations that encourage you. And we need to extinguish those negative thoughts that come our way with the shield of faith. Because we all know the enemy. And as you can see, the enemy was there on that road. And I am certain that those people were telling him to be quiet because of what was placed in their hearts to say by the enemy. So be wary, be watchful, be alert. And I also want to share with you something that happened to me today. I went to Walmart. Well, not Walmart. I went to Sam's. I had ordered some tires for my car. And last week, I had taken my car to a dealership. And of course, you know when you go to a dealership, you go for one thing, and they come up with all these recommendations. Well, one of their recommendations was that I needed to have new tires. Now, mind you, I had also asked to have my oil changed and my tires rotated. And they refused to rotate my tires because they said my tire treads were at such a point that I just needed to get new tires. And so they didn't rotate the tires. So my husband decided that we would order tires from Sam's. And that's what I did. So today I had an appointment to go get the tires put on. And so we drove up, filled out the paperwork and so forth. I gave him my cell number so that they can call me when the car was ready. But I had forgotten that I muted my cell phone because I had had an earlier appointment. And when you're in the doctor's office, generally they want you to turn off your sound on your cell phone. So quite naturally, I had forgotten to turn the sound back on. And I decided, well, while I'm waiting here in Sam's, that I would do some shopping for a friend. So I was busy shopping and picking up some items. And I looked up, and before me was the tech. And he said, "Ma'am, is this your car? CRV 2015? I said, "Yes." 2015 car? I said, "Yes." And he said, "I'm going to tell you, there's nothing wrong with your tires. Those tires do not need to be changed now. You have a good 3,000 miles left on those tires." I couldn't believe it. And my husband was in another part of Sam. I said, "Well, would you come with me to my husband?" So he went with me, and I went over to my husband, and he explained to my husband. And they said, a lot of times these dealerships try to get you to do more so that they can earn not only more money, but they get certain discounts. So I was so thankful. So what I did was cancel the order and got the cost of the 4 tires put back on my credit card. And so I'm just going to go 3,000 more miles and go back and get the tires rotated. But what I want to point out to you is that the other technician that checked me out and put the amount back on my card said, "Oh, ma'am, I like that cross that you had in your car, the one with the stones around it." And I said, "Oh, thank you." He said, "Yeah, I really like that cross." And I just want to tell you, do you know how many times I've had my car serviced with that cross that was made for me? And it's a cross made of wood sitting in the dashboard of my car. And I have never had anyone say anything to me about that cross. And it was right then that I was hoping that I had more than one, because I certainly would have given it to him. And I thanked them again for them tracking me down in Sam's and telling me about the tires. And I just want to say this: you never know how you can represent Jesus and be a witness. So that cross in my car, it was noticed. And so I plan to go back, because we talked and he shared with me that he was expecting his first baby. I plan to go back. First, I'm going to see if I can get another cross made, and I'm going to give him a cross and a baby gift. So I hope that what I have said has encouraged a believer and a non-believer. And I do hope you return if this is your first time listening. And if you would like to contact me, or if you want me to share some of your walk of faith stories, then you may email me, SheilaSapp15@gmail.com. That's SheilaSapp15@gmail.com. And remember, together we can grow and strengthen our faith, and that this walk of faith is a daily walk, and it doesn't happen overnight. And I again thank you for listening. Share this broadcast, share the link, and always remember and never forget, for we walk by faith, not by sight. God bless you.